If you asked a Porsche enthusiast how much you needed to spend on a truly exciting 911, they'd probably tell you anywhere between $200,000 or $400,000 for something like a turbo, a GT3 RS, or a GT2 RS. But now that even the base 911 comes with turbochargers, what if you were willing to spend a much smaller amount of money at your local tuning shop? Would you get a more exciting car than you get from the Porsche factory? Today, that's what we're going to find out. So this video is a bit unlike the ones I usually film because this is not a press car from Porsche. This is a 991.1 911 Carrera T. So that is the base power level, but the T had some unique changes. It was a little bit lighter, it had thinner glass, it had a few options that you could only get on stuff like the Carrera S. It was basically an enthusiast-focused 911. But this one comes from a local tuning shop here in Orlando, Florida called Flat 6 Motorsports. Now, Flat 6 has told me that they aim to build track-focused or even street-focused 911s that don't sacrifice the livability that Porsche meant for this car to have. This Carrera T that I am driving, they say, is supposed to feel like a GT2 RS touring. And if you know anything about Porsche nomenclature, you know that a touring is kind of a wingless, sporty GT car. So in this video, we are going to try to find out whether or not Flat 6 has been successful in that goal. So we're going to first talk about what they did to the styling here. So they didn't really touch too much here at the front other than changing out the amber reflectors here on the side for clear ones. That's just a really nice upgrade to do to your Porsche anyway, and a very easy one at that. They just kind of pop off. We've got these really cool looking BC forged RZ05 wheels. We do have the Porsche carbon ceramic brakes behind them, and then they are wrapped in Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2R tires. This is the kind of tire that you would expect to get on something like a GT3 RS or a GT2 RS, not necessarily a Carrera T like this one. And they are very, very wide tires indeed. 265 here in the front, 325 here at the back. So these are some big sticky tires, and as we see when we get it out on the road later, they do quite a lot for grip. We also have some GT3 side skirts, and then back here we've got this really gorgeous ducktail spoiler. This thing is just so cool. I absolutely love how this looks on the 911 Carrera T. The spoiler actually comes from a company called Moshhammer, and it just looks so cool. It lets you know that this isn't a crazy GT2 or GT3 RS, but there is something lurking under this beast. Now, what is under the hood of this beast, you might ask? Well, because it is still a modern 911, the answer when I lift up the very tiny hood back here is not much. You can see two fans, you can see 3.0 letting us know that we have a 3-liter Flat 6 turbocharged engine, and a small sticker recommending that we use Mobil 1 oil, and that's about it. But the story is much deeper. Flat 6 did a lot of work on this otherwise stock engine. The stock horsepower rating is 378. It now makes 715 horsepower at the crank, about 620 horsepower at the wheels. They actually offer a kit that offers about 750 horsepower, although less powerful ones are available. To get to that, they've added quite a bit. You get pure 800 turbos. They're a little bit bigger even than the ones that you got on the GTS of this generation. You have a tuning kit from M Engineering. You have a Klein competition exhaust. We'll hear that in a little bit. You have a CSF intercooler. We've also got DO88 inlets and pressure hoses, BMC high flow air filters, Goodrich brake lines, and some other incredible stuff on top of that. Basically, you are now getting more power than a 911 Turbo or a GT2 RS in a base Carrera T. Now at this point, you've got to be wondering, what is it like to drive a Porsche 911 with a manual transmission and over 700 horsepower? And the answer, might surprise you a little bit because they've added so much grip with these super wide, super sticky Cup 2 tires that grip is actually not the issue that you would think it would be. Now, we do have some kind of launch control program here where if you put your foot on the clutch and slam the throttle, it will kind of rev to about 3,000 RPM. Now the trouble is if you let off the clutch too quickly, the engine just kind of bogs a little bit and you don't get the quickest launch possible. So you have to be a little bit smoother with that. But we are going to try a 0 to 60 run. Remember, this car stock with a manual did about 4.4 seconds to 60. Ready? Wheel spin. Whoa. Oh. Now, if you can get this car off the line quick enough and smoothly enough, I have seen 0 to 60 in as little as 3.44 seconds. So that is almost a full second quicker than stock, and that is a huge gain. Now you can immediately tell that this car is louder than a standard Carrera T. That exhaust is doing some work. It's real shouty, especially when you have the exhaust flaps open. You do have a quieter mode in this car, but oh, it definitely screams at the high end. But it's not a GT3 type of scream. This is a very turbocharged sound. You get lots of lots of coughs, lots of whooshing noises as well. So as you can hear, we're gonna get on the throttle again. Ooh, definitely sounds good. Not as clean as something like a GT3, but it's definitely a 911 sound, albeit a very turbocharged one. Now I gotta talk to you about this shifter. It comes to us from Numeric, and if you've ever seen one of my videos with a 911, you know that I was never the biggest fan of this 7-speed manual box. I just didn't think it was as crisp as some of the other 6-speed transmissions, and the extra cog just made it not quite as fun to use. But with this Numeric shifter, oh, it's incredible. It feels like every time I'm shifting gears, it's like I just beat Vin Diesel in an armrest and I'm pinning his muscular meat into the table. Boom! Oh, I could just do this shifter and I would be a very, very happy boy. This is an experience that I think all 911 manual owners should buy. If you do own a 911 991.1 and you just want a little bit of extra pizzazz, go for this Numeric shifter. I don't think you're gonna be disappointed. This thing feels like I'm rowing the gears in a GT3. It's that good. Now off the line, I mentioned that grip, not really your issue. These Cup 2 tires stick to the road unbelievably, even with 700 horsepower. Your issue was really just getting the manual transmission with the clutch off the line. As we are finding out here, when the road gets windy, this thing just sticks so well to the road. You can have so much fun here. Carbon ceramic brakes bring you to such a nice, easy stop. Like, it's incredible. No fade, nothing whatsoever. Now the dampers, we are on Öhlins road and track dampers. That means you are losing the ability to click a button and have firm or soft suspension. You have to get under the car to adjust it. And the way that it is adjusted now, the owner of Flat 6 tells me, is a track focused setup. We have a track focused alignment. We have a track focused damper setup at the moment. And it's definitely firm. You do feel it, especially at low speeds, although it does smooth out quite a bit the faster you go, but you can also tune it a little bit more for the road. That's why they're road and track dampers. So you can make it more comfortable than this one is if you want the livability, or maybe you're just a wrench and it's very easy for you to put the car up and change the suspension settings. For me, that would be a little bit of a pain, but for you, that might be nothing. And the other thing, livability-wise, that I got to talk about is going to be the exhaust. Only you know what your tolerance is for an exhaust, but if I'm driving around with the sports exhaust open, there are some unwanted frequencies at about 2,000 RPM. So if you're just kind of cruising, it's a little bit annoying, a little bit buzzy in my ear. There's a difference between loud and good, and this thing can be good at the high end. It's just some of those right there, weird frequencies that you get. Now there is a fix for this. Just don't have the exhaust open. Just have it in the normal mode. You can even put it in Sport Plus mode and just turn the exhaust off. Kind of defeats the purpose of having an exhaust like that. But now I think it's just on the edge of livability. I don't think it's too bad at all. All I can do is just shift up and make it a little bit quieter. Now it really kind of just feels like I'm driving a stock 911, which is a really hard trick to pull off when we have this much power on tap. So that's really going to be a you pain tolerance thing with how much livability you really want to sacrifice, because I'm sure you can buy one that's even crazier than this with carbon bucket seats. We just have kind of the normal 4-way Carrera T seats, which I think are great. You could do a more aggressive clutch. This clutch feels literally like a normal 911 clutch. It's fantastic. So it really just depends what you want out of your 911. But after driving this, I'm ready to say that if you want a really fast 911, but you don't necessarily want PDK, maybe you want something fast with all-wheel drive, you don't want to spend 911 turbo money or take the depreciation on a 911 turbo, you don't have to give that money from Porsche. You can just buy a base Carrera or a Carrera T like this one and get it tuned. So that wraps up our time with the Flat 6 Motorsports tuned Porsche 911 Carrera T, otherwise known as the GT2 RS Touring. This is a spectacular car. I love a 911, but this just takes it to the next level. The power, the grip, that shifter, so much fun, but we've got to talk about the nuts and bolts of how much this is going to cost you. Flat 6 charges anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 for its 911 991.1 tuning kit. Unfortunately, they don't have a kit currently available for the 992.2. Porsche changed a lot of the ECU tuning, so it's very difficult to crack at the moment. Once somebody does it, I'm sure Flat 6 will offer it. But let's talk about the 991.1, because this is a used car now. You can pick one of these up depending on what spec you're getting, whether you're getting a Carrera T, a base Carrera, Carrera S, maybe even a Carrera GTS. Depends on the price. So it's going to be hard to quote an exact price for you, but everything that you see here, including that power kit, you're looking at about $40,000 to $50,000 of extra spending. Now, you don't have to do all of it if you thought what I showed you was a little bit aggressive. Highly recommend you do the shifter, whether or not you are going to take it to Flat 6 here in Orlando or not, but you can pretty much pick up a 911 Carrera or a Carrera T, a base car in the low $100,000 range. Let's keep it under $150,000. Spend $50,000 on it. And for under $200,000, you are getting something that produces more power than a 911 Turbo, more than a 911 GT2 RS. You get the track-focused setup. If you are into that, you could probably make it a little bit more streetable if you want, but this is a value. There's no other way about it. If you look at used GT3 prices, used GT3 RS prices, heck, even used turbo prices, they are so much more than those Carreras. So you can really save yourself a bundle. And unlike a turbo, this is available with rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. You can get it with a PDK, or you can get it with a manual, the way that this car is. There's just so much more flexibility with your options versus what Porsche offers from the factory. I'm not going to go ahead and say it feels exactly like an OEM Porsche, so you have to be into tuning and you have to be willing to make some livability compromises, but it is not a full race car for the street. It is somewhat livable. It's still pretty comfortable. You can still take it on the highway, and the crucial thing is it just feels fantastic to drive. Let me know in the comments, would you go to Flat 6 and have your 911 tuned, or is there no way to beat Porsche's factory tuning, and would you just spend the extra money to get something like a turbo? Let me know in the comments, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. I'll see you next time.